I've been binge watching Adolescence this week, the new Netflix 4-part drama, and it's absolutely terrifying, gripping and beautifully made drama at its best. It's gripping because each episode is just one single shot. I'm trying to record a little straight to camera video, and yet I'm going to stumble over my words and get things wrong and have to start again. But imagine trying to do that while you're coordinating hundreds of extras and people in school, people in a van or a police car, and just making sure that works is so difficult. And so hats off to the directors and the filmmakers that have made that possible for this incredible show. It's terrifying because it uncovered for many of us a world that our teenagers, whether it's our children, grandchildren, nephews, nieces, cousins, are facing right now. And it's a real eye-opener. It reminded me of my secondary school, seeing around the halls of the school that's featured in this television program. And for me, I was bullied at school because of my racial heritage. And yet I could go home at the end of the day and I'd be surrounded by a loving family of support. But what the show so powerfully showed us is that children today don't have that opportunity to switch off. If they're being bullied at school, that's going to follow them home online through constant social media bombardment. And what the show really cleverly does is it helps some of us decode some of the language, some of the messaging that's happening to our children. And it's so horrific, so painful. So I think for me, that's one of the most important things this show has done, is just an eye-opening moment for what our teenagers and our children are facing at school and in their culture at the moment. And I'm hoping it will make us want to lean in and offer them more support and more help and less judgment. Second thing I think the show really helpfully does is expose just the impact of the gender and culture war on children. Look, I am a feminist. I want to support the rights of women because for so many generations and in so many parts of our world, women are being oppressed, they're being silenced, they're being treated as second-class citizens in so many contexts. And we are, as a culture, wrestling with what it means, what is the difference between gender and biological sex. And that's a fair enough conversation to have too. But one area where there's been a silence is, what does it mean to be a boy and a young man in our culture? And that silence of fear of upsetting people or saying the wrong thing has led to a vacuum. And that vacuum has been filled by evil, misogynistic social media influencers like Andrew Tate. And Andrew Tate features in this television show, and a lot of his teaching, things like the 80-20 rule, that 80% of women are attracted to 20% of men, and this idea that women want to be treated badly in order to break them, in order that the men might dominate them. It's just absolutely toxic. And for me, that episode 3 of this drama was particularly harrowing. And all it is a young lad having a conversation with a psychologist, and she asks him some pretty open-ended questions about what it means to be a man, what does love look like, and the answers that he gives just reveal how wicked and how deep the manosphere and this toxic masculinity cuts into the hearts and minds of teenage boys in particular. And I think, again, we've got to find a way that we can support people, whatever their background, whatever their gender identity, whatever their sex, to know that they are valuable, that they're not ugly, they're not unwanted, but they're seen for who they are. And I think for me as a Christian, I believe that every single human being is made in the image of God and has value, dignity and worth. And that cuts through all the gender conversations or the race conversations or the academic success conversations, that foundation that you are a person of value, dignity and worth, and that you are loved as you are for who you are, is such a powerful antidote to the toxicity that's out there at the moment. But we've struggled to communicate that well to young people and to young boys in particular. I think the third area the television show raises is the challenges facing parents today. And I think the producers of the television program have been so wise in choosing a loving family. This is not an abusive father that's at the centre of this drama. It's a loving father that's trying to do his best by his kids, but still struggling. And then watching the horror as he realises just who his son has become. And again, I'm hoping we'll create not a culture of judgment on parents, but a culture of support, that all of us have a role to play. In many parts of Africa, there was a expression, it takes a whole village to raise a child. And we recognise the role of neighbours and different generations in helping to form our young people in a healthy and appropriate way. But in our individualised society, we've kind of lost a lot of that social capital that might support parents to do their job. And it's one of my hopes is that communities like mine, I'm part of a church, we can play our role in supporting families. And I remember our local church, when I was a church leader, it was a mums and toddlers group. We wanted to show new mums or even new dads that there was a community of support there for them. And that rolled into youth groups and children's groups offered to support not just the church's kids, but everybody's children. So I wonder whether we need to recapture this sense that we all have a role to play in order to help families thrive and flourish. And I'm hoping that this powerful, horrific, and yet beautifully shot drama will be a wake-up call that all of us will play our part in helping children to flourish. Thanks so much for listening.